Hello and welcome to the CSR Journal. Today we have Mr. Nadir Godrej, Managing Director of Godrej Industries with us. Godrej as a group has been into social activities as well as various kinds of business since 1897. Today we will have a word with Mr. Nadir Godrej to know more about the activities by them. Hello and welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, we would like to know about the CSR activities that Godrej Group as a whole has been doing currently.
First of all, I should start off by talking about the Pirosha Godrej Trust, which is a foundation which has a 26% share in our parent company, Godrej Boys, and it engages in various activities, particularly in the fields of education, healthcare, and environment. From a very early date, the foundation was very involved in environmental causes, and we funded the headquarters of the WWF in India, which is in Delhi, and we also set up the Sorabji Godrej CII Green Center in Hyderabad, which was also funded by the trust. And this center is a green building and Platinum LEED certified, and it also promotes various kinds of green technology throughout Indian industry, and it has a big impact on preserving the environment in India. Apart from the trust, the companies decided to have a shared value program, and this is based on the principles of Michael Porter. It's between 2010 and 2020, we took the goal of training 1 million people. These are around skills which are related to our business, but they're not for our own employees. They're for people who either have nothing to do with the business or often can be partners of the business. For instance, we train beauticians. We get a little bit of business benefit from that because these beauticians could be buying our products, or they could help us design new products. Similarly, we train agriculturalists, dairy farmers. We have a big dairy feed business, so it is in our own interest to train dairy farmers, but of course they get a lot of benefit from the training as well. So we look for opportunities like that. And the other area we are focusing on is on the environment. We took some very ambitious goals, such as to be water neutral, to be carbon neutral, to have no solid waste by 2020. Now, these were very challenging goals, but we actually found that as we worked on them, as we studied these issues, we could source green energy cheaper than fossil fuel energy. We use biomass, we use solar energy, we use wind energy, and we use some of our own waste products for energy, like pitch from our fatty acid plants. Today, pitch is much cheaper than furnace oil, and it has 90% of the calorific value of furnace oil. So it is our firm belief that if you think about these things, if you put a lot of effort into these things, you don't actually have to put a lot of money into these things.
So as you spoke about the building at Hyderabad, so I would like to know, is Godrej by any chance planning to have residential properties of that kind for sale?
Yes, our real estate business tries to build buildings that are green. Not all of them are platinum certified, but there are certainly high levels of green certification for all our buildings. And we'll make efforts to educate customers also, because and in commercial buildings, it's very easy to convince customers, because if they know they're saving energy and they're going to be there for 10 or 15 years, they don't mind paying a little bit higher price. For residential buildings, it's a little more of a challenge. But as a principle, we try to produce very green buildings. They cost a little bit more, but more and more customers are willing to pay that small premium for a green building.
So please tell us about the Godrej Green Champion show that you recently had. Is that a step forward to get commoners involved and interested in the environmental projects?
Yes, it had educational impact. It allowed us to demonstrate to the world what we are doing in the green field. This probably came, part of the idea came from NDTV, part of it came from Good and Green team, part of it came from PR team. And when I first heard about it, I thought it was an excellent idea.
How would you rate the success of this show, and would you like to have, Godrej Green Champion 2016 as well?
We haven't thought about that yet, but I believe the show was extremely successful, both from a point of view of promotion for the company and for all the people who watched it and learned a lot about the environment, which is a cause very close to our heart.
So Godrej has been involved in various social activities, right from education to healthcare to environment. Environment has always been a very close subject to Godrej. Is there any specific reason for being so?
I think many of our family members had a very keen interest in the environment, particularly my uncle Saurabh Godrej, and he was the one very instrumental in preserving the mangroves over here. We didn't for a moment think of developing it for the factory, since the biodiversity could be preserved. Many of the mangroves in Mumbai have disappeared, but ours are fortunately preserved. He was very, very keenly interested in the environment. He was much more keenly interested in the environment than in the business, and we learned a lot from him about what we have endeavored to do later on is to try and have both coexist. And now that climate change has become a big issue, that has become a big focus for us. My cousin Jamshid participated in many of the environmental causes my uncle was involved in, and including the WWF, but he is also on the boards of many organizations that are looking at climate change and other environmental issues in a more modern way as well. And our interest in biodiversity preservation also continues. Now I feel it's just a matter of survival. I'm also going to Paris for the World Business Council on Sustainable Development meetings right after the main Paris meetings and in conjunction with the main Paris meetings. If all of us don't come up with a good proposal in Paris, the world will be doomed. So we have to make a good effort.
Philanthropy comes as a legacy to the Godrej Group from its right from the founder, Mr. Nadir Godrej. How does the employees of these group take these responsibilities as?
The employees are also taking a lot of responsibility, particularly nowadays. We have volunteering schemes in which many employees volunteer, and they get a lot of satisfaction from that. And one of the things that many employees do is mentoring children, and that they find extremely satisfying. Also, we have days where surplus goods are donated and so on, and we get big collections at that time as well. The employees have taken it to heart, and just as and we get a lot of support from our shareholders also. They are very keen that their companies in which they invest do CSR activities.
What kind of support would that be like from
well, at the shareholder meetings, they always agree to that. If there are any resolutions about spending money on CSR, they actively support it.
Do you think companies these days are missing, on sustainability part in a bid to just become CSR spenders because of the mandate?
There is the mandate, but a lot of groups realize that sustainability, if you look at the real meaning of the word, it means continuing. Every business wants to continue. So how can you say that a business is not interested in sustainability? And sustainability is about saving the planet, because we can't continue without that. It is about helping society, because if society is distressed, businesses can't continue. If business is hurting society, businesses can't continue.
What difference has the CSR mandate of spending 2% made to your budget of social activities?
We were already spending about 1%, and it is very easy for us to spend the 2%. Some of our companies don't even have an obligation, either because the profit measured by that measure and we have no obligation, but those companies also spend.
You're into various business, right, from chemicals to real estate to consumer products.
Yes.
How do you ensure having sustainable growth without affecting the different social and environmental measures?
So in a chemical business, we use a lot of energy. And since we have a goal of zero carbon impact, we have to find greener sources of energy. But our chemical business has a lot of knowledge about energy because we have a lot of chemical engineers, a lot of electrical engineers, and we try and help the other businesses. We often in the chemical business, we pioneered biomass energy. We use pellets and briquettes rather than pellets, made out of groundnut shell and bagasse. And we pioneered that, and then Godrej Consumer Products, which has very similar boilers, also looked towards that technology. We also pioneered windmills in the group many years ago, and now we are looking more and more at solar energy. And today we can buy solar energy cheaper than what the electric utilities supply us. So because we had this goal, we started looking for green energy, and now we find it actually helps us. So I'm a firm believer that shared values will work, and if you look for sustainable solutions, you will actually find cheaper sustainable solutions. We also have another foundation, the Nauroji Godrej Foundation, that tries to preserve the plants of the Western Ghats. Okay. Yes, and some of these plants can be very useful, and they would disappear if we didn't work on protecting them. And through the help, we also found a plant that might be useful in mosquito control, and we are doing research in that. So that's another example of when you are environmentally conscious, you might actually get a business opportunity.
That's exploring business opportunities while doing social activities.
I'm fully convinced that good deeds and business have to go together.
What all do you do to ensure the 0% goal that you have?
Well, first of all, we do conservation of electricity. One of our goals is also to have a 30% reduction of specific energy use. So for per kilo of product, we will use 30% less electricity. Conservation is the best return of any investment that a business can do, because as long as your basic business is going on, if you use less electricity, there is a big saving, and usually there's a very good return on investment on conservation measures. Sometimes if we see that we are stepping down steam from one pressure to a lower pressure, that energy difference is just lost. So then you can put in a machine to generate electricity from that difference. The returns on those kinds of investments are very good. The moment you use less electricity, you automatically cutting your carbon footprint. But then when you replace coal energy with green energy, you're greatly reducing your carbon footprint, and today it is cheaper to do so. A coal power plant may actually be slightly cheaper than a solar power plant in India today, but the price we pay for electricity to our utility is much higher than the cost of a coal power plant. So when we go for solar, and it's easy to wheel that because the government is also encouraging green energy, we immediately get a cheaper electricity rate.
Do you think CSR as a whole needs supervision and a monitoring watchdog?
No, I don't think so. I think it should be left to businesses. It's very good that there is a reporting requirement. If at all, you should shame businesses, because already we are by far an over-regulated economy, and regulation doesn't serve the purpose. encouragement is much better than regulations. When you're bringing up children, do you scold them or do you give them positive reinforcements? And which kind of children deliver better results? The government should do the same thing with businesses. Give positive reinforcement, but please don't look to negative reinforcement.
And you also spoke about shaming them. I mean,
Yes, you give awards. Already the government has very cleverly put a shaming. Every company has to report its CSR activities in its annual report. The directors will look into it. The shareholders will look into it. That's good enough.
Okay. Tell us one policy you follow at Godrej and which you think should be implemented by others in terms of CSR.
I think if not achieving zero carbon neutrality, going close towards that goal would be beneficial to most corporates. It may be more challenging for some very energy-intensive corporates, and maybe not have a goal for 2020, but have a goal for 2030. I think they will actually save money.
Thank you so much for joining us on CSR Journal, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.